Hey there, friends, and welcome to episode 341 of Just the Zoo of Us. This week, I am joined by a very special guest, science communicator, infectious disease researcher, and the Khaleesi of Mosquitos for a review, at times a critique, and at times a defense of some of the animal kingdom's most controversial creatures. We discuss whether our guest would rather fight 10,000 mosquitoes or a gorilla, evil squiggles, and how malaria works, larval cannibalism, and mosquito-on-mosquito crime, what the insectary is doing with all those soup cups and dental dams, and so much more. Just the Zoo of Us presents Elephant Mosquitoes with Cassandra Fieldson. Hi there, everybody. This is Ellen Weatherford with Just the Zoo of Us, your favorite animal review podcast. I am so excited this week. We have a brand new friend to talk to us. This is Cassandra Fieldson. Say hi, Cassandra.
Hi, everyone. I am so excited to be here. This has been a podcast I've listened to for quite a bit of time, and I just love how you bring it all together. And I'm so excited to talk about my creature for the day. So be prepared.
I am excited too, and I know that this is a creature that inspires a lot of big feelings in a lot of people from all over the world, and you are doing some really, really fascinating work with this creature. Not just big feeling stuff, but like big impact stuff, which I think is really fascinating. I also, a little peek behind the scenes, got to actually meet you and see where you work and see the work that you're doing with these creatures in real life, like offline. I got to actually go to a physical put on pants, get dressed, drive to a place, and I got to see the work that you do with these creatures, which to me, I am not an academic, I'm not a scientist, so for me to get to see what the science looks like and be in a lab and get to see what it looks like was extremely exciting. So Cassandra, before we talk about our creature for today, I would love to talk about you. How did you get into the work that you do researching insects?
Yeah. So I have a very long journey, but I was really lucky. I, first of all, did not think I'd end up where I was going to be today. I didn't think that I'd get into this specific insect. I thought I was going to go into ecology and studying that sort of research. So when I was in high school, I reached out to a bunch of labs. I was like, hey, I really like nature. I really like the environment. I really like animals. I'm really fascinated about how they work, and I have a lot of questions on why. Can you please just help me out? Let me have some time. And luckily, I reached out to the University of Washington biology department.
Let's go. Represent.
Yeah, I love you, Dub. Go dogs. And my friend of mine was like, hey, we have this project looking at bird spines and looking at how birds balance and perch, but we're going to take 130 different species and take CT scans of their spines and just compare them and see if there's like a difference in how they're shaped and how that impacts their perching. And eventually I transitioned to a different lab that looked at how nectivorous birds feed. So I had a very bird-themed research going on.
Wow. Also very, very interesting getting to like look at their spines and balance. Something that I never really thought about for birds, but like once you say it out loud, I'm like, oh yeah, wait, actually, how does that work?
Yeah, they have to figure that out. And honestly, my favorite ones to look at were actually flamingo spines.
What is happening in there?
Yeah. We weren't able to figure out exactly what was going on. We saw morphological differences between all of them, but the flamingo spines had a larger base where they were able to have nerve processing and sort of that immediate reaction to different stuff. And that makes sense. They have really, really long legs, right? They're kind of gangly. They shouldn't stand like they do, but they do.
And they stand on one leg. Yeah, they would have to be like yoga maxing.
Other birds, like smaller, like the tits, those sort of birds, they like stay closer to the branch, and they do have perching abilities, but it's a little bit different. They rely more on their tail. And so the lumbosacral part, which is like your lower spine, was really interesting to look at because it combines where the legs connect to the body as well as it combines where the tail is. And they use sort of both of those things to balance. And it was cool to be hands-on with that and studying the differences between all those and sort of trying to figure out with all these different puzzle pieces what was going on.
So how did you get from birds to bugs?
I started working with nectivorous bird scientists for a bit. I did my first bit of wet lab work and understanding how to work with specimens. So we compared the metabolism of a lot of birds, But we were working specifically with hummingbirds, and I got to do some field work with them, which was really cool. But my transition into working with bugs was actually hummingbirds can get malaria, which is something that I didn't know initially.
Did not know that. News
Yeah.
to me.
And what's even cooler is the way that they get malaria is very different from how humans get malaria because their red blood cells are different than ours. Human red blood cells don't have any nucleuses in them, so they don't have DNA or any genetic material in them. So if you watch like a CSI movie or anything like that, and they say there was blood on the crime scene, we were able to use that to find genetic evidence. They're not actually looking at the red blood cells for that, they're looking at the white blood cells. But birds have a nucleus inside their red blood cell. So the parasite, which infects red blood cells, does it completely differently, and it's much more deadly for them. So it's been wiping out hummingbirds, and I had too many questions. So I reached out to malaria researchers at the UW immunology department, and they happened to have space for me where I was working with the malaria parasite hands-on, but also raising 5,000 mosquitoes a week for science.
These are my 5,000 sons.
Yeah, these are all my children. I felt very much like a mother of dragons sort of situation.
Imagine Daenerys, but instead of 3 dragons on her shoulders, she's just being like carried aloft by like a cloud
thousands of mosquitoes. Sometimes I'm worried that's how people see me.
That would be way scarier.
Yes. My friends and I also come up with these crazy would you rather questions, like would you rather fight a gorilla versus like 5,000 rats? And the thing is, once there's too many of them, you just can't fight them off. So I think with mosquitoes, it's the same principle, where if there's too many, I start to get scared.
I feel like the more interesting way to phrase that exact question for mosquitoes is like, what is the number of mosquitoes at which you would rather fight a gorilla?
That's a great question. I really like how you phrase it. I can think of a number mentally already for me because I think the most mosquitoes I've seen escaped and out is probably about 1,000 or 2,000. And when that happens, one, you write a very fun report about it. But 2,
does the lab report start off with like a record scratch freeze frame? Like, you're probably wondering how I got into this situation.
It probably should. I'm going to be honest. Usually I just call up EHS and I'm like, hi guys, please help.
The report is like, dear diary, today was not such a good day.
Yeah. Luckily, that has only ever happened to me once, and it still haunts my dreams. So I think my number is probably about, I'd say 10,000 mosquitoes is where I'd probably do that. But the strategy, if you have mosquitoes escape, is you leave the room, make sure there's no mosquitoes on you, and you get this giant vest that kind of is made completely out of mosquito netting. And you go in with a vacuum, text your family, say I love you, and
finalize your will.
Yeah, and you just go start sucking up on mosquitoes. So I'd like to avoid 10,000 mosquitoes getting out. The day that happens, I will be applying for gorilla handler jobs. So, yeah. Anyway.
Now, I did get to go visit the lab. I got to see the insectary. I got to see these hundreds of thousands of mosquitoes, which I'm going to rewind a little bit. This is maybe even a behind the scenes for you. When you and I were emailing back and forth and like scheduling, like, okay, this is the day when I'm going to come. First of all, when you first reached out to me and were like, do you want to come see the mosquitoes? I was like, when and where, babe? Like...
That's very brave of you. A lot of people just automatically look at me like I'm crazy. So I'm glad to hear you were excited.
I was like, show me the bugs. I want to see these bugs. And I just kind of like, we came up with a date and time. I just threw it up on my Google Calendar because I didn't want to forget about it. Mm-hmm. But I also was in a hurry. So I didn't like put a lot of detail on my Google Calendar. I just threw it on there. And so morning of, I'm like getting ready to go. And my husband comes into our room and he's like, hey, you have something on your Google Calendar that just says mosquitoes at 11 a.m. Like, what are you doing? I was like, I have to go downtown. I have a meeting with 100,000 mosquitoes.
Don't worry about it. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I have a bunch of mosquitoes I need to go downtown to go see.
Yeah. No, I will say you're very brave for even showing up. A lot of people think their mosquitoes are flying around free range in the room, but luckily we don't raise free range mosquitoes. They're in cages, so that's good.
Can you imagine the nightmare of like having to do the work that you do where the mosquitoes are just kind of like around?
I try not to think about it. It makes my job like exponentially easier if I don't think about what the worst case scenario is. But yeah.
Okay, so you have mentioned to me that the mosquito that you work with, as I feel like a lot of people might not realize that mosquito is not just like one worldwide species, right? That there's not just like
Yeah.
mosquito, capital proper noun. And you work with a specific type of mosquito. So could you talk about that a little bit about like how your mosquito is a special boy?
Yeah, so there are a lot of mosquitoes out there. There's like 3,500 different species of mosquitoes. And of those, only 2 to 9% of them blood feed.
They're the real bad apples that are spoiling the
Yeah.
bunch, I feel like.
And of those, like only 100 actually prefer humans. And of those, there's only 3 genuses that can actually transmit those diseases. So there's Aedes mosquitoes, which transmit things like dengue, yellow fever, chikungunya. There's Culex, which transmits West Nile and encephalitis. But malaria can only be transmitted by one specific species of mosquito, which is the Anopheles mosquito. This genus of mosquito has been co-evolving with malaria since the time of the dinosaurs. Like
Wow.
we have fossil evidence from amber that there is a biting midge that has a relative of our current plasmodium or malaria parasite, which I think is
Wow.
really important to talk about. So we don't raise just any mosquitoes that you can find outside. I guess like, depending where you're at, you can find them outside, but we've been raising this colony for about 10 or so years trying to do this malaria research.
So malaria has been an op from day one. It's been on our case for millions and millions of years. I also didn't, I guess, realize that humans weren't the only ones that could suffer from malaria.
Oh, yeah.
Is this like a very widespread problem?
Actually, it is. First of all, I think it's important to mention that malaria kills like 610,000 people a year. Like, that's massive numbers. And most of those are children under the age of 5. And it's very hard to study other species and how it impacts them. But we have a really good model for that in hummingbirds, which is, again, how I got that connection into malaria research. Because hummingbirds, first of all, are this very charming creature, but we can sort of look at their numbers, look at how they're doing to get a model of that. And it does have a pretty big impact. Other species that can get malaria include reptiles can get malaria, bats, birds, which makes sense, and then also primates and a lot of other mammals as well. So malaria impacts quite a few different species, and it's important to not even address for humans' sake, but also address ecologically.
In humans, at least, what does malaria look like? What happens if you get malaria?
Malaria is super complicated. And I mean, that's part of why it's existed for so long. It has like at least this 12-step cycle, and you can get very specific on how it looks and changes between species. But I think it's best to start if we start with an infected mosquito, take a bite of an uninfected host. And in doing so, they release the malaria parasite. And in this stage, it's called a sporozoite. But I like to think of them as little worm guys because that's what they are. They're
Squiggle.
yeah, they're a little
Squiggle in you.
squiggle. They're
An evil squiggle.
evil squiggle. I like that. I'm using that. So these evil squiggles, their only goal is to make it to your bloodstream once they've been injected in a human. And eventually that bloodstream, all roads lead to the liver. Like they eventually make it to the liver, which is their goal because they infect the liver cells in there and use those liver cells to replicate. Some species can lay dormant inside the liver and wait 10 or so years to be able to reinfect the person again. But once they make it to the liver, they use the liver's mechanism to replicate and explode out of that cell. And once they burst out of that cell, they start infecting the red blood cells. And doing so, they use those red blood cells and they use up all the iron inside of the blood. That's like the really good stuff for the parasite. It's what's the most nutritious and it has the most energy. And they use that up to replicate even more and then explode from that cell and continue this exponential process. And what I think is really interesting is the part that makes us sick is not the liver stage, but the blood stage. It's when all those red blood cells explode because all the gunk that's in there can just make it outside of that cell and your body's immune system starts reacting to it. You feel sick. Part of the research I do is also associated with cerebral malaria, which is where the blood-brain barrier breaks down because of the fact that there is so much gunk that is being released in the system. Your body starts letting things into your brain that it shouldn't. That's what kills majority of children with malaria. Very devastating. And so now how does it get back into the mosquito? This involves a mosquito taking a blood meal and specifically getting certain type of parasite that is ready to be ingested by the mosquito. Not all malaria parasites can infect mosquitoes, but it goes into the mosquito's stomach. And then once it's in that stomach, it turns into what we call an oocyst. And that oocyst actually bursts through that mosquito's stomach, stays on that stomach, and develops slowly for about 2 weeks. And then eventually it bursts out and goes to the salivary glands, repeating the cycle all over again. That's a very quick view. People have spent their whole lives studying this parasite. And honestly, if I had 5 hours to talk about it, I would. But it gets much more specific and complex, and I like to keep it brief.
First of all, it is so surprising to me that this very uncomplicated organism, right? That this is a very, like a microscopic, anatomically pretty fundamental like organism, that it is able to navigate and manipulate systems of the bodies of much, much, much more complicated organisms than itself, right? The ability to like navigate the human like circulatory system and then like take advantage of the immune system and then get back into the mosquito and work through the mosquito systems. Like, it is so surprising to me that such a simple thing, it's able to pull off such incredible like infiltration of all the different systems. That is mind-blowing to me.
Trust me, I still think about it every day. Every single time I see the parasite in front of me, I'm like, whoa, how does this little guy, this thing that doesn't even have a brain, figure out all this? But
right, it's the not having a brain for me.
Right.
Like, this is such sophisticated.
Like, did you plan this? Like,
do you call this behavior even? Like this like
Yeah.
sophisticated mechanism, I guess, and the fact that it's doing all of this without this sort of nervous system command center that we would expect.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of triggers that create a certain action. And it's crazy to me that evolution was like, yeah, we're just going to try something out. And eventually it worked. And now we're here with this parasite that's been dominating not only humans, but other species for hundreds of millions of years.
We are getting bodied.
Yeah,
we are getting absolutely bodied by this thing.
We're doing better. Like, there's this evolutionary arms race between humans, either attacking the mosquito or the parasite. But it's definitely, it's going to be a fight for a long time and an important battle to fight.
Does the mosquito suffer from the effects of malaria, or is the mosquito just kind of like an innocent bystander in all this? Like, I'm just wondering if the mosquito, because you mentioned that the mosquito has to kind of like be reinfected to continue transmitting it. So like, is the mosquito off scot-free, or is the mosquito also taking strays from this?
Yeah, I actually made a video about this, and that really shows that the mosquito gets infected by this parasite too. They're not just existing all alone. But I mentioned earlier, these oocysts have to go through the stomach of the mosquito and burst and go to the salivary glands of the mosquito.
Which
and doing that
can't feel good.
Imagine your stomach having just like a worm go through it and you're just supposed to be okay with it. But there is this really cool balance that the parasite has to have, where it takes a lot of time for the parasite to be able to get to the mosquito salivary glands. So it has to make sure it doesn't kill the mosquito. If it kills the mosquito, it can't infect a new host. So there's a balance it has to have of not making the mosquito too sick. But my other favorite thing is that mosquitoes have an immune system reaction to the parasite sometimes, called melanization, where mosquitoes, their goal is just to live long enough to reproduce. So they don't have specialized immune systems like you might have if you get sick and you re-encounter that same illness again. You can like fight it better. They don't have that. They just have a generalized immune response where they just chuck globs of melanin, which is a stretchy polymer, at whatever issue it has. And it just encapsulates it in a small glob for as long as it can survive so it can reproduce.
What a wild strategy also. Like, just slime it. I don't know.
Yeah. Just like, here you go. Throw something at it. It's not very specialized. I think it's so fascinating that that's how they came up with the system around it.
You know what this reminds me a little bit of? The way you're describing how, like, it basically has to go undetected for long enough to sort of spread. Have you ever heard of this game called Plague Inc?
Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of that game. So if anyone isn't familiar with this, it's a game where you basically play as like a virus and you have to try to infect the entire world before humans can cure you. And after you play it, when the first couple of times you play, you get to like pick the symptoms, you get to pick the spread, you get to like pick where you go next and stuff like that. And so like you have a lot of control over the evolution of this virus. But after you play it a few times, you figure out that like the strategy is to have like no visible symptoms early in the game so that you can spread before alerting the humans, and the humans start like researching to cure you, basically. So like if you can like fly under the radar as much as possible early game and spread a lot before having symptoms visible, then it doesn't give them time to like react. So that's what this kind of reminds me of, is that for the mosquito, it's like it's too late by the time anything bad is happening to the mosquito.
Oh yeah, no, that's like one of the really cool things. It takes about 3 weeks for the mosquito to truly be able to reinfect someone. It's not like boom, I can go infect someone else after their blood meal. They have to take time, be slow and strategic about it. And there's actually some studies that the mosquito's behavior has changed once they're
Oh,
infected with the parasite. So they either can choose to go after hosts that are more likely to be not infected. So they have a preference for them because they have like based on specific body temperatures, or they also have a behavior where they hide away after they've just taken a blood meal to avoid getting swatted or killed before they able to
no
reinfect the
way.
host. So
That's diabolical.
these sort of parasite host interactions and vector interactions are so fascinating to me because it's very much a strategy game and they're both playing against each other but also kind of working with each other but also working against each other. It's all these different factors coming together for a really interesting story.
I feel like usually the perception of mosquitoes is that mosquitoes are like the henchmen of the parasite, right? That the mosquitoes are like in cahoots with the parasite to try to infect, as many hosts as possible. But like, I feel like people are missing the fact that like the mosquito is also the victim here. Like the mosquito
Yeah,
is the vessel and the mosquito is also being harmed and killed by this.
right. Bro did not deserve this.
Bro did not ask for this. Yeah.
Yeah.
And is also like being mind controlled.
Yeah. I would not personally want to be mind controlled if I had a choice in the matter.
This reminds me so much of like cordyceps. Like I
Yeah.
love learning about cordyceps fungus because of how this like reminds me a lot of once again, even though it's such like a simple an organism without even like a like functioning nervous system or like
Right.
decision making processes is still able to have these surprisingly like high level impacts on the organism. It makes me stressed out to think about.
Fair, fair. There's sometimes where I'm like sitting there looking at the stuff I have in my hands, like, I should be more stressed than this. Where's like the fear response? So, but like, yeah, evolution is crazy. That's like the one thing I've learned from all my studying.
Well, let's talk about the ways in which evolution has run amok, gone wild. If this is anyone's first time listening to this podcast, we rate animals out of 10, and the first category is effectiveness. These are physical adaptations, things built into the animal's body that let it do a good job of the things it's trying to do, whether that is find food, not become food themselves, things like that. So, Cassandra, what do you give your darling, beloved children, the elephant mosquitoes, out of 10 for effectiveness?
So, I specifically wanted to talk about the elephant mosquitoes because they're my favorite mosquito of all time. In fact, I dressed up as them for Halloween this past year.
I'm
That's how
gonna
much
need a
I'm
pick.
dedicated to them.
Gonna need a pick.
You will get one. I love them so much. And this specific species, to give a bit of background, is very interesting because Toxorhynchides, they're my favorite mosquito for a few reasons. They differ from most mosquitoes that we interact with on a day to day basis. I know most people are used to the mosquitoes that you swat or that bite you. These mosquitoes actually aren't blood feeding at all. This species of mosquito that I don't study and have never seen in real life actually is nectivorous because majority of mosquitoes don't blood feed. These ones don't blood feed as well. And they also have a lot of different advantages to them. So one of their advantages is that they are a generalist pollinator. So the elephant mosquito's big feature is it has a proboscis that is built like an elephant trunk. It is curved down and it actually helps them feed from different flowers. Like their name, Toxorhynchides, or the elephant mosquito, means bow-shaped nose, which is really funny. And part of why I like them so much is it's very easy sell to people because they don't bite you or interact with you. The part that I like talking about and why it is my favorite mosquito is this mosquito's larvae are actually cannibalistic.
Mosquito on mosquito crime. We hate to see
Yes.
it.
Yeah, it's truly horrible. So the reason that mosquitoes blood feed in the first place is they need the proteins from your blood to develop their eggs. So only female mosquitoes blood feed. But this mosquito has found a way around it because their larvae collect the nutrients from other larvae while they're developing.
I'm sorry. Hilarious to me that they're like, why would I go flying around?
Right.
I got it right here.
Yeah.
I got all the protein I need right here, baby. It's my
Yeah.
brothers and sisters.
Yeah, they've worked around the system quite a bit. It kind of reminds me of like vitamin C deficiency in like humans, guinea pigs, apes, and everything else. Like all those species rely on vitamin C and have to get it through their diet because it's much easier for you to get vitamin C through eating fruit if you're in a fruit dense area than it is to make vitamin C on your own because it's a very taxing thing. For these mosquitoes, it's very taxing to make all those proteins that help them develop their eggs. And so these specific cannibalistic larvae have found a way around that by eating other baby mosquitoes in the area. So they can eat about 5,000 other larvae in their developmental stage. If you ever get the chance, I recommend you look up Toxorhynchides larvae feeding or something along those lines. And there's this one amazing video out there of these larvae that can use their jaws to latch on to other mosquito larvae that are smaller than them and feed on them. They're generalist. They found a way around getting their proteins. And they also can survive in most other environments by having an aquatic life form and an aerial life form. So as their effectiveness, I have to give them a 10 because I think that they've gotten around everything and they've figured it all out.
Now, when the babies are all eating each other, is this like a battle royale, Hunger Games, sort of like only the strong survive? Because like it sounds to me like they're like performing their own natural selection, where they're like, "Oh yeah, you're in an evolutionary arms race with me, baby."
Yeah. So actually, what I think is the coolest thing about this is that the adult female mosquitoes kind of already know this. So when they lay their eggs, they actually do an aerial drop by over places of water that have other larvae in it, and they lay one singular egg in that body of water and then move to a new location and drop another. Most other mosquito species stick to one area, they find one good spot to lay their eggs, and then they move on. But these specific species do aerial drop-bys where they know that there's other mosquito larvae in the area to hope that their babies will survive and reproduce. And then they'll spread them out so that way their larvae aren't competing with each other. They've done experiments where you have the same Toxorhynchides larvae in the same environment together, and they actually prefer other species of mosquitoes if they can. Like if they have a whole bunch of options, they'll go for the other species, and eventually then they'll eat their sisters and brothers, sort of thing.
That is actually diabolical, because she's like, I know you're going to eat a bunch of babies. I'm going to try to make sure you don't eat my other babies, but like you're going to eat some babies.
Yeah. And I'm always in awe of the aerial drop your egg off and like move on to a new location.
Later.
Yeah. Like, here you go, child. Have fun at school.
Hope you grow up.
Yeah. I'm in awe of them. The mosquitoes I work with don't interact like that at all. In fact, the mosquitoes I work with, they go down and fly by the water. They test the water to see if it's the right pH level. They're very particular and picky about it. And then they lay their eggs and then they leave and they lay them all in the same spot.
Civilized.
Yeah, very civilized. Toxorhynchides doesn't follow those rules at all. They are crazy for that.
The chaos of just like zooming by. They've got like the bass thumping in the car and everything. Yeah. They don't even come to a complete stop. Imagine like dropping your kid off at daycare by just like rolling through the parking lot.
Have fun, Timmy. I hope you eat some kids. See you later, sort of situation. Packed you a lunch. Yes.
I packed you a lunch, but if you get hungry afterwards.
Yeah, but don't worry about it. Yeah.
Look around, homie.
Yeah.
Pick your weakest classmate.
Basically. So if we talk a little bit about their preference scale, they actually prefer species of mosquitoes like Aedes aegypti, which I mentioned earlier. Aedes aegypti can spread diseases such as dengue, yellow fever, chikungunya, Zika, and many others. So it's been considered that we use these species as a way to reduce the impact of infectious disease spread, which has been done before. The only issue is if you are releasing a species into a new area, please make sure it's the correct species. There are some species that look like Toxorhynchides and aren't Toxorhynchides. And if you release them in a new area, it can go poorly. This has happened in the past, I think.
Oh no, what happened?
I believe it's Toxorhynchides sebaces was dropped in an area that wasn't supposed to be. And I thought it was, I believe, Toxorhynchides rutilis. They released them into these environments thinking that they had the correct mosquito. And then it ended up devastating the rest of the population and also being more of a pest for others. Mosquito control is a kind of weird thing where we can try our best to get good biological control options because there's this evolutionary arms race against pesticides that can be very difficult, but you have to be very careful and well planned about it. But there's still a lot of research going into mosquito control using Toxorhynchides, and that's why I find it so interesting.
Yeah, like using mosquitoes to control mosquitoes.
Yeah.
That is really interesting to me. Like I mentioned earlier, like a lot of people don't really realize how much diversity there is among mosquitoes.
Yeah.
and like don't realize that there's so many different types of mosquitoes, and maybe might not realize that like, well, hey, there's actually some types of mosquitoes that could actually help you. Like they could actually eat the mosquitoes that would be feeding on your blood.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to talk about them so badly. I was like, oh, this is the perfect opportunity to talk about these weird little critters that break the rules that a lot of people know about mosquitoes. And this is my usual like gateway drug to get people into mosquitoes. I'm like, okay, I know you hate mosquitoes. I know that they bite you, and I know they spread diseases and have killed 52 billion people in human history. But
hear me out.
Hear me out. This mosquito that eats other mosquitoes. So it's a cool little mosquito to talk about. So for effectiveness, it gets a 10 from me because it has all the qualities of a mosquito that make it so successful throughout our world, but it's a way of fighting them, and it has really cool mechanisms against that.
A lot of times when people talk about like the ways that humans have impacted other species, it's always like human activity has inadvertently made the species go extinct. Populations are declining just through like either directly we've overhunted this animal or we've depleted its habitat. Like you always hear about humans having this impact on other species where like we're inadvertently or unintentionally making a species completely go extinct. But when we do actually want to like take out a species, we can't do it.
Yeah. Well,
like where was that energy?
Right? Yeah. One of the really interesting conversations I get to have with people because they hear I'm a mosquito researcher. So they ask me, why don't we just eradicate all mosquitoes already? So I have actually a little pros and cons list that I've lined up for questions like this. So pros of getting rid of mosquitoes. Obviously, they spread infectious diseases, malaria, dengue, Zika, I can name plenty. And they've killed 52 billion people in human history. Keep in mind that only 117 billion people have ever lived. So they're pretty devastating. And also, they give you itchy bites. They're kind of annoying. They keep people up at night. But the cons of getting rid of mosquitoes is, first of all, that they're pollinators. Like I mentioned before, very few mosquitoes actually transmit infectious diseases. Majority of them are very important as pollinators. Like a lot of mosquitoes can actually be responsible for pollinating things like chocolate. And there's an interesting argument that if we got rid of them, there'd be no impact, but I like to at least bring that up to sway some people. And then their larvae are very important decomposers for aquatic ecosystems. And finally, they're food for species like bats, birds, reptiles, fish. And without them, we'd be losing 92 million pounds of biomass in the ecosystem. So there's an interesting pros and cons. We haven't done it yet, gotten rid of mosquitoes, but I think it's always important to sort of weigh those out before making any massive extinction choices. So.
And also the point about like infectious diseases is that, yes, these infectious diseases spread by mosquitoes are devastating. And also we have seen that like we can treat those.
Yeah.
We could just be increasing access to the treatment that could be like making these diseases less impactful and less deadly. Like a lot of this seems like a human structural issue. We could be making access to these treatments and access to this care like a lot more accessible.
Yeah, I agree with some parts there. Like a lot of diseases like malaria, we don't have treatments for the communities that don't have that. So it's really important we have research into that. That's why funding research is super important, and making sure we continue to have funding for research is good. And also mosquitoes do end up being reservoirs for a lot of these things. So if we don't get rid of mosquitoes in some areas, those diseases can come back and devastate populations. A lot of these areas and regions that have infectious disease issues are often places that don't have good funding for that sort of stuff. And also, it's very hard to convince pharmaceutical companies that we should support and fund places where they don't think there's a good return on things, which is an unfortunate, disgusting underbelly that does exist of scientific research, is understanding how to allow different treatments to go through and become real treatments. So people wanting to eradicate mosquitoes, I completely understand. I think that makes sense. They've caused so much damage and harm, and they seem like an easier target than a very small, very brainless creature that seems to just sort of function on its own and ignore us. And not ignore us, but wants to devastate our society. So.
Hey there, we are going to take a quick break to hear from our friends on the Maximum Fun Network. When we get back, we are going to talk ingenuity and aesthetics for elephant mosquitoes, so stay with us.
Ready, go.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
We got this.
With Mark and Hal?
Oh, you knew this one.
We can't put that out as an ad.
We just did new episodes every week on MaximumFun.org or wherever you get your podcasts. Now it's hewn in rock.
Hewn in rock?
Yeah,
How do you hew something in rock?
with a chisel.
There's only one Hugh in rock, and it's Huey Lewis.
And the news is We Got This with Mark and Hal is available every week on MaximumFun.org.
I walked right into that.
Wonderful is a podcast where we talk about things we like. That's hard to sell in a promo like this, so we've enlisted the help of piano rock superstar Billy Joel to tell you about some of the topics we've covered. Take it away, real Billy Joel.
Diddy Rock spin on Lakeside, Worcestershire, Circle Time, Sega, Dreamcast, Caesar Salad, Tower of Hanoi. Keep me up, 8 time capsules, Wayne's World, Cheese Pulls, Wallace Stevens, Donkey Kong, Fun Size Almond Joy. They didn't start the podcast. Except that's not true, they didn't 22. They didn't start the podcast. No, they actually did, that was in fact a fib.
Listen to Wonderful every Wednesday on MaximumFun.org or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks, real Billy Joel.
No problem, Griffin.
The next category that we rate animals on is ingenuity. These are behaviors, things the animal is doing with their body to navigate their world or solve problems that they face. So what do you give elephant mosquitoes out of 10 for ingenuity?
That one's hard because mosquitoes, I've worked with them hands-on, and I'd say a 7, which I think is a little bit higher than I was planning on giving them initially.
It doesn't seem like there's a lot of room in the noggin for activity.
But they are relying a lot on their sensory tools that help them problem solve. So they're not directly doing the problem solving. They've just got a lot of tools that help them. There's not a lot of literature out there on how smart specifically elephant mosquitoes are. So I'm probably going to be talking a little bit more about my experience handling mosquitoes and also papers that look at species that are a lot more well covered, like infectious disease giving mosquitoes, because people care more about that. But I would say that mosquitoes, like the elephant mosquitoes, they're pollinators, so they have to recognize plants that are important for them. So they have color sensing abilities. They're able to recognize prey when it's near, when they're in their larval stages. So that made my decision of giving them a little bit higher of a score more likely. They also have to be able to lay their eggs and recognize if there's other prey for their babies to be there. So that's a little bit more of a pro for them.
That's true. That involves a little bit of math, I feel like, almost. Like having to remember, and also like spatial memory.
Oh, yeah.
Having to remember, like, I've been to this pond already. I need to go find a new one. Like, where's another good pond that I could lay my eggs? Like, I feel like that involves a lot of navigation and memory.
Yeah. I used to work with hummingbirds, which are a very notorious pollinator, and a lot of understanding how these birds that migrate over 4,000 miles every year have to come back to the same spots and remember the same people in the same community who feed them at their hummingbird feeders. So being a pollinator is not easy and involves recognition of patterns. Now, the research that I've seen that's been done on mosquitoes, specifically one that I'm going to reference, is mosquitoes' ability to recognize dangerous or pesticide reservoirs, specifically Aedes mosquitoes. There was a research study done in 2022 that looked at how insecticides and pesticides that were not lethal to mosquitoes, if they were in the environment, if mosquitoes would return back to food sources or other reservoirs that had that non-lethal pesticide, and see if they would remember that it was bad or not. And the mosquitoes were able to remember that that location would harm them if they went back.
Oh.
So they do have the ability to remember and recognize any sort of harm or threat, which I think gives them a positive. And then in my experience, mosquitoes, they're kind of smart. I wouldn't say that they're smartest. The ones I work with, I've never felt really worried about them escaping, because even if there's a small hole in the cage, they don't notice it. The only time that they've ever escaped is because they accidentally grabbed onto something that was leaving the cage at the same time. They're not actively looking for the next method to escape. When they escape, it's dumb luck. So it's not on purpose at all.
That does kind of explain why, if you've ever gotten a mosquito in your car, or it's come in through a window or something like that, and you just open the door or open the window so that they can get back out, but they just kind of fly in circles for 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. And the whole time you're sitting there dude,
it's right there.
Is open. It's the way you came in, bro. Just turn around.
Yeah. So I was considering giving them 6 points, but I was it's hard having a small brain and remembering things. So the fact that they can do that I'm going to give him a 7. I'm going to give him some confidence.
It is hard out there for small brains.
Yeah,
it's tough out there.
From experience, it's rough.
It's a big, complicated world.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, but so I would say, I'm so sorry, a 6 or a 7. Yeah, you can like get rid of me
You
now.
did the. I have to call you out for doing the thing.
Yeah, I did the thing. I'm sorry. I was challenged by a friend to do that at least once, and now I hope they're happy. So yeah.
Okay, you have just skewed the average age of listener for this episode down by like.
You're right. My apologies. Yeah.
This episode is going to go crazy with middle schoolers.
Yes.
Hugely popular.
Yeah.
Our target demographic.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, so I got to see the insect room, the room where it happens. I got to see the magic. I got to see the big old trays full of mosquito larvae. It was really cool to me too, how you guys have like these big giant, honestly, they look like giant versions of like the trays that we use to like bake stuff in our ovens. Like these big, I expected to see like Nordic ware on the bottom because I was like, I think I got these at Costco. So we've got these big trays that are just like, an inch or so of water, just full of thousands and thousands of mosquito. And also like, it was so interesting to me how you guys have different stages of the like larval development. You'd have the teeny tiny little poppy seed looking ones, and then you'd have them like a few trays down would be like a little bit more developed ones, and then like over in another area you have the fully like emerged adult ones. I know you mentioned already that they're not super like escape motivated, or at least not very driven to like figure their way out, but have there been any sort of challenges in keeping the mosquitoes contained? Like what kind of challenges and things have you had to navigate for trying to outsmart mosquitoes?
So trying to our insectary manager, Talia, has said this phrase and said, the mosquitoes are kind of dumb. And I almost wish they were smart, because I can predict smart. I can see the path that they're going to take, but dumb, they're going to accidentally run into a specific way that you didn't think of.
It's like when you have toddlers and you never, like you can spend all day toddler proofing your house.
Oh, yeah.
And they will find the one thing, like they will somehow manage to like spawn a knife out of nowhere.
Right.
You're like, how did you do that?
Yeah. And so that's always a concern in our minds. But our insectary has been functioning for over 10 years and we've never had a mosquito escapee. And we'd like to keep it that way. So we have a lot of protocols set up to avoid that. Luckily, because the mosquito life cycle starts in an aquatic form, like I talked about before, where they start as an egg, they go into larva, and then they turn into pupae, which is kind of, I like to say like a chrysalis, but they have the ability to move and sense their environment. During that stage, we are not worried about them leaving because of the fact that they're in the water. They cannot walk away. They are very dependent on that water system. But there is a point where they start emerging from pupae into the full-grown mosquito adults. So in doing that, we want to get those pupae as fast as we can into containers where we have our mosquitoes, because we do not have mosquitoes just flying around randomly. I think that would be my worst nightmare, and I don't know if I could work at my job if that was the case. But we try our best to collect and separate the pupae from larvae as efficiently as we can, so that way we can move them into separate containers where they can emerge in what we actually have as remodeled soup boxes or soup containers.
The soup cups take me out. I'm sorry, the soup cups are so funny.
Oh, yeah. And we have like dental dams on them, so we can like adjust things inside the cage without any escapees, and netting on top.
Good soup.
Yeah, good soup. It's definitely one of those things where you're like, oh, I now will never look at soup containers ever the same again. So
also, like, never bring like a beverage or something and like set it down on the counter next to one, because like there's not a chance. I'm definitely taking a big old swig of mosquitoes.
Oh yeah, like I paint sometimes, and like there's the painting cup, and then there's a not painting cup, and it's a really scary game of Russian roulette. So I can imagine with mosquitoes, it's the same.
And you have a lot of videos of this on social media. The nightmare fuel of like the netting on top, and the mosquitoes are all sticking their little snouts out through the netting. It is horrifying.
Yeah, that specific video kind of blew up because I think it brought in so many different people who were, one, had this morbid fascination with what was going on, but two, mosquitoes are so polarizing.
Yes.
It brought in so much of this attention towards that because people are burn it, destroy the insectary. But I've been really lucky with my position I'm in. I'm trying to reroute all that hate and see if we can like make people learn a few facts that they didn't expect to learn by having all that attention on how morbidly fascinating it is to see their little proboscis, which is their nose or mouth feeding parts, sticking through the cage, trying to reach my hand.
And you're kind of rage baiting them a little bit
Oh,
too.
yeah.
The hand is like right there. They're just like, ooh, let me at it.
Yeah, specifically, I'm rage baiting starving mothers. So like, say that what you will about me. I have hobbies.
Unproblematic. Completely
Oh, yes.
unproblematic.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I know that a lot of people are sort of repulsed by mosquitoes, whether it is like at a sort of conceptual level, whether that is rooted in a sense of justice, like bringing them to justice for the horrible, impact that they have, whether, I will say they are also the victim here. But a lot of people have this sense of like repulsion and distaste for mosquitoes. But the last category that we rate animals on is aesthetics. It's just how nice you think this animal is to look at, which is ignore the haters. Tune everyone out.
Oh, yeah.
Tuning everyone out. This is just you. You personally, Cassandra, what do you give elephant mosquitoes out of 10 for aesthetics?
So you know how I mentioned earlier that like elephant mosquitoes are my gateway drug into mosquitoes?
Yes.
They continue to be the gateway drug for mosquitoes as a concept because they are some of the most gorgeous mosquitoes I've ever seen. The mosquitoes I work with are very drab.
I'm doing a Google search.
You better. I think you'll appreciate it. Mosquitoes I work with are very drab. They're very brown. They have specific patterns on their wings, which are that helps them a little bit. But elephant mosquitoes, they are iridescent purple. They have beautiful colors. And they're absolutely stunning. They are what inspired me to be my Halloween costume for this past year because I was like, I get to dress in all purple. My hair was purple for that. I was like, this is fun. They have really cool iridescence, which makes them an easier sell if they're pretty as well.
Yeah, they are very shiny, very colorful. Also got big old fluffy antenna.
Yeah. So those are specifically the male mosquitoes. Male mosquitoes have fluffy antenna because on the ends of all of those antennae are mechanosensors that can feel vibrations in the air and actually help them identify different mosquito species and different genders of mosquitoes from each other.
When people experience being particularly inviting to mosquitoes, because I do feel like a lot of people are like, mosquitoes love me, and then some people can go hiking all day long and not get a single bite. I usually am covered in mosquito bites, but like sometimes I could be like, I could go out hiking with somebody else who gets none. So like, is there something to that, to like some people being like tastier to mosquitoes than others?
Yeah, I get this question all the time because understandably, if you are getting bit a lot, you want to understand what's going on. And there's a few different factors that go into this. First of all, some people are more likely to react to mosquito bites than others.
That's me, baby.
Yeah,
That's me,
I'm
baby.
so sorry.
If a mosquito looks at me wrong, I'm swelling up and itching.
Oh, yeah. No, Skeeter syndrome is real, and I definitely hear a lot of complaints and issues with it. Some people can be allergic to mosquitoes and have severe allergic reactions. We actually had 2 different undergrads in the history of our insectary who've been allergic to mosquito bites work in an insectary, but they thought the work we were doing was so important that they powered through, and I'm still in awe of them.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I mean, big ups, big on them.
Oh, yeah. Luckily for me, I don't react to mosquito bites. I think it would make my job very difficult, so that does help me a bit. But when it comes to mosquitoes choosing their specific hosts, there's 3 different factors that go into it. First, they use thermosensation, or they have the ability to detect how warm something is. So if you run much warmer, you're more likely to attract mosquitoes. But if you run colder, you're less likely to attract them. They have a lot of very specific receptors for that, and I could probably talk for hours about that. So 2, they look at CO2 detection. They have specific features on their face called palps, which can detect the amount of CO2 that you might have in your exhale of your breath. It will allow them to be able to sense if a possible host is nearby. And so if you exhale a lot of CO2, you're much more likely to be preferred as a host for mosquitoes. And finally, probably the most complicated is they use chemosensation or smell to determine if there's a host there or not. And that has a lot of different factors going into it, because I mentioned earlier that mosquitoes have preferences for different animals or different species. They have specific odor receptors based on what species that they have the highest preference to. And some people might be more likely to emit those odors that they have specific receptors for. And some regional mosquitoes might have a preference for some people's odors, where other regional mosquitoes might not have a preference for them. And finally, like the biggest myth that I get to hear a lot is that your blood type impacts how much mosquitoes care about you, and specifically type O blood. First of all, I'm very lucky and mosquitoes don't care about me. I once went hiking with my partner and he got 278 mosquito bites and I got 2.
Wow.
He says that I use him for mosquito bite, but whatever.
He was the lightning rod. He was protecting you.
Yeah, I thank goodness for him. But
the meat shield.
Yes. Oh, he's gonna love that I called him that. There's some studies out there that shows you're a little bit more likely to be preferred by mosquitoes based on your blood type, but because mosquitoes have no way to sense your blood unless your blood is aerosolized around your body, which I really hope it isn't, because if it is,
you have bigger problems than mosquitoes if your blood is aerosolized.
Go talk to a doctor, please. I think a lot of that miscommunication there is people who have a specific blood type are more likely to emit certain odors. It's not always the case, but it's just slightly more likely that you're going to do it. So there's not as big of a correlation as people think. And there's a big difference between causation and correlation between the two.
A certain je ne sais quoi.
Yeah.
They like the cut of one's jib. They can, you know what it was that why you didn't get covered in mosquito bites? They could sense your pure intentions.
Yes.
They could sense your heart.
Arguably, they might want his pure intentions and like nice aura. Then maybe that's what they were going for him. But I will take it.
They simply acknowledged that you were like one of them, and they were like, "Oh, that's fine. That's our girl right there."
Yeah. We're homies. So yeah. Oh, the final thing, I got distracted again, like I usually do.
Welcome to the show. Hello, welcome to what we do.
I wanted to mention for aesthetics, I gave them a 10, but furthermore with their aesthetics, elephant mosquitoes are actually like 10 times the size of normal mosquitoes. Oh. There's a fantastic picture out there if you look up adult elephant mosquitoes, which has an Aedes aegypti mosquito next to an elephant mosquito.
I see it.
And it's gigantic. It's giant compared to them. And I think them being that large is amazing. And also what leads into my favorite fact about elephant mosquitoes, which is they are actually celebrities. They were featured in Jurassic Park. They are the mosquito that was trapped in amber because of the fact that they were so big. They found a specific genre of them that doesn't have that bright iridescence colors, and they stuck it in amber because you could see the mosquito.
Right.
But this other mosquito species aren't as visible. And so it's kind of an interesting plot hole in Jurassic Park that there is actually no blood-feeding mosquitoes in that amber that they show. So that's my favorite fun fact about them, too.
That is... I've heard a lot of nitpicking about Jurassic Park, and that is one I have never heard.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. Yeah. There is some discourse if it's a crane fly, but because the proboscis shape or their nose shape, some people think it might be an elephant mosquito, but it's still fun to say.
I also wonder, like, aesthetically, whether the size helps or hinders, because I feel like a bug being bigger than usual could go either way. Some people don't like them to be that small, but some people don't like them to be that big either.
See, I have a little bit of a fondness for the crane flies, which are the mosquito eaters. You might have heard them. They don't actually eat mosquitoes. They're just nectivorous. And there's this weird myth out there that they eat mosquitoes. But I see them, I'm like, oh, they're so big. They're such a cutie. And I don't know. I think I might be around the insects too much. I think they're too cute when they start to get bigger and bigger. So
I do worry that you are bug pilled. I think you're in too deep.
Yeah, but nowhere else I'd rather be. Okay.
So true. So true.
Unless they escape, then I'd have a few other places I'd rather be. So yeah.
Namely all of them. Anywhere else.
Gorilla taming. Yeah, it's fine.
Well, Cassandra, for people who have had a fun time learning and want to learn more about the work that you do with mosquitoes and learn more about insects and ecology and infectious diseases and all the cool stuff that you get to work with, where can people go next?
Yeah, so I am, first of all, a part of Seattle Children's Research Institute. And so if you look up the Kashansky Lab, we do fantastic work. And we have an event coming up in mid-June. I don't know if this is going to be out by then. If it is, that'll be great. Where we're going to actually give out insectary tours in Seattle. So if you happen to be in Seattle, want to do an insectary tour and mosquito dissection, we're going to be having a fun event for that. So I get to plug that a little bit. So hopefully not only Ellen will be able to see what our insectary looks like.
You guys, it's so cool. It's so cool. I'm being so for real. There's like big, cooler things with Pokemon labels on them. It's so fun. It's such a vibe.
I love getting a bunch of nerds together because we'll eventually just start talking about Pokemon. It's my favorite part.
All roads lead to Pokemon on this podcast. All roads lead to Pokemon.
Oh, yeah.
How you feel about buzzwool?
I'm a big fan. Again, I'm very bug filled though, so it makes sense. Yeah. Although I'm more of a Beedrill kind of fan. It doesn't matter.
Beedrill. That's mother.
Yeah. You can find my social media where I talk about a lot of things, and we'll be promoting whatever fun things I'm doing at bio.cas.ification. Kind of like bioclassification. I don't know. I had fun with the pun. I post practically daily on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. So I can be found all over the place there. And I am a big science illustrator, big science communicator, and always come up with fun events. And if anyone has fun opportunities for me, I love talking about mosquitoes. So feel free to reach out to me.
Awesome. I will have links to everything in the episode description. So anybody who wants to go check out more of your work, see more from you, learn more from you, and go check out some of the cool Seattle-based stuff, anyone can just scroll down and click through the links in the episode description. Cassandra, I can't thank you enough, not only for being here and talking to me, but for showing me around the lab and teaching me all this awesome stuff about mosquitoes and like a lot of stuff that I just didn't know about, like malaria and infectious disease. I feel like I have learned so much from you already, and I can't wait to learn even more.
Oh, thanks for having me. Anytime I can talk about mosquitoes, I will take you up on it. And you do such a fantastic job just making this so fun. So it's an honor.
I feel like we both had fun. I hope people listening had fun too and maybe learned a thing or two along the way. So thank you, Cassandra. We will talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all so much for listening. I hope that Cassandra's enthusiasm for learning about insects and science has been infectious. If you liked what you heard, I would love it if you left behind some kind words for us in a review on your podcast app of choice. If you want to come hang out with us online, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, and Blue Sky. Links to everything will be in the episode description. You can also send me an email at ellen@justthezooofus.com if you have a cool animal you'd like to hear us talk about on the show. We would like to thank Maximum Fun for having us on their network alongside the other amazing shows that you heard promos for earlier during this episode. If you want to go check those out and learn how you can be a part of supporting our show, plus get access to our exclusive monthly bonus episodes, head over to MaximumFun.org. Finally, we would like to thank Louis Zong for our theme music. That's all for today. We'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.
Maximum Fun,
a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows.
supported
Directly
by you.